The views and opinions expressed here are those of mine and mine alone, and do not reflect those of TNT, CAF, or the Canadian government. What is national identity? This is a question I have pondered on and off since arriving at Carleton University. At Carleton University, I study political science, focusing on national identity in the post-Soviet landscape. During my studies, I have identified 3 themes related to national identity. Let's begin by defining national identity. It is how someone chooses to identify with or feels a sense of belonging to one or more countries. Some examples are collective memories about a country's history, language, culture, holidays, traditions, and customs. Now you might be asking yourself, why is the government promoting this? The answer is nationalism. In the modern state, the government requires a certain level of nationalism to participate in international affairs because countries interact under the mutual understanding that all governments function to promote national interest while protecting their nation's sovereignty. Nationalism may seem like a scary term these days, but it is important to realize that nationalism is on a spectrum. On one end, too much nationalism is really bad and can lead to very dangerous policies. But at the same time, without nationalism, a country will fall apart. Therefore, every country must find and maintain the balance through events and policies designed to promote national identity. One of the best events to promote national identity is international sporting events. Because international sporting events, specifically the opening and closing ceremonies, provide 2 to 3 hours of nearly uninterrupted airtime to international audiences, both physically attending and watching the broadcast at home, to reinforce narratives about their national identity to domestic and international audiences. This year marks the 30th year since the dissolution of the Soviet Union and the emergence of the 15 republics. Since that cold night in December, each of the republics has moved forward in forging their post-Soviet identity. Each republic has a different experience joining the USSR and under the USSR, which has led to the creation of their unique identities following the dissolution of the Soviet Union. The first case study was the 2017 Asian Indoor and Martial Arts Games venue, held in Ashgabat, Turkmenistan. According to Michael Dennison in The Art of the Impossible, Turkmenistan national identity is comprised of depoliticalized and dehistoricalized symbols throughout the venue, like the Saluk star, weaving patterns, and the Alteke horse. The spectator bleachers use contrasting colors throughout the athletic venue to create the Saluk star when they were empty. During the 2017 Asian Indoor and Martial Arts Games, the stadiums where the opening ceremonies were held featured a Guinness World Record-setting 40-meter tall Alteke horse overlooking the performances. One of the performances was about the importance of weaving in Turkmen culture. During my research, the first theme I found was that our perspective of national identity is far too rigid. National identity has 2 key aspects. The first part is about making the individual feel personally responsible for continuing the collective memory of people, places, and events. The second part of national identity is how they are remembered. For example, the victory at Vimy Ridge is the collective memory. We're discussing the victory in school in English and French is how the legacy is remembered. Therefore, the future national identity will be determined by what the government chooses to celebrate and how the government chooses to commemorate it. The second case study was the 2017 Winter Universiade. The Winter Universiade is a multi-sport event for student and youth athletes who compete in winter athletics. The symbols of national identity used by the performers included apples, falcons, and horses, which have a deep historical connection to Kazakhstan. The host city, Almaty, takes its name from apples, which were first discovered here, and are an important symbol of Kazakh culture, as they are one of the most widely cultivated and eaten fruits in the world. In addition, the game's mascot was a white falcon, representing the importance of Selborne. the practice of using birds of prey for hunting. Lastly, there were performers on stud horses doing various flips and tricks while on horseback. Throughout history, horses have played a significant role in Central Asian history and culture. The second theme in national identity was how national identity plays a prominent role in how the population perceives itself and how it differentiates itself from others. But the population has little influence over what is chosen and what national identity is used for. Therefore, the government's choices on what and how national identity is remembered may be influenced by personal, ideological, and agenda-based goals, because it is a good way to motivate and resonate with citizens. My final case study was the World Nomad Games in Cholpon-Ata, Kyrgyzstan. We are reviving our historical identity through the promotion of the nomadic lifestyle, culture, and tradition of the various nomadic people of Central Asia to a global audience, said Kyrgyzstan's Minister for Youth and Sports. The World Nomad Games featured 2,000 athletes from 82 countries competing in 37 different ethno-sports. One of the requirements to participate in the athletic competition was a booth in the ethnocultural festival, featuring different displays on clothing, jewelry, textiles, etc. After finishing the booth tour, you could relax by listening to some folk music, watching some folk dance, and by listening to oral retellings of various epics and legends, along with many other cultural activities. The final theme I discovered was that some aspects of national identity reference a period of history that is no longer relevant. What I mean by this is that it calls back to activities and ways of life that are not gone or forgotten, but are not central to life in the modern nation state. The population continues to do these activities, but adjusts them for modern narratives. I also learned that the national identity would never be present either, because to connect a large group of people through time and history to this more extensive idea of nationhood, it requires the individual to have a sense of individual responsibility to preserving their national identity. For example, the beaver is the national symbol of Canada. This is because much of Canadian history before Confederation was rooted in the fur trade. This is what the government chooses to remember. Today, very few people trap as a full-time profession due to consumer demand, and those who do use different tools. Therefore, it's no longer relevant. However, the beaver remains important as a national symbol. This is how it's remembered. Why does it remain important? Because as parts of culture stop representing the practices, they start to represent society's values. And these social values are what the individual feels obligated to uphold. As society looks to the future, we must ask ourselves, what will the world remember? And how will they choose to remember it? Who are the people in government making these decisions? And how will their decisions impact national identity? What are the values that these people will choose to represent through their symbols? The past was once the present, so how will the future remember the present? The decision is ours. Thanks.